Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Time Pass for the New Indian Express. I have with me the lovely Rasika Dugal, who I think everybody has seen everywhere. She's everywhere these days. She's just come off Loot Case, which is a hilarious comedy. It's done very well. She's in Suitable Boy, which is winning plaudits all over in England, which is just, I think it's in the third episode. The fourth is yet to begin on BBC One. It'll soon be on Netflix. She's just shot the second season of Delhi Crime as well as the second season of Mirzapur. She's quite on a roll. And she was just getting ready to go to London, I believe, for a movie, which sounds very intriguing. What Lord Curzon Ki Haveli, right?
Yes.
So it really is marvelous to have her with us because she's done so many different kinds of roles in the last just about 3 years. We've seen her. Oh, and I forgot, while she was in lockdown, she also shot a short film with Mukul Chadda's husband called Banana Bread. If you've not watched it, please do. So thank you so much for joining us, Rasika, between all this that you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me and for watching so much of my work.
Yeah, because, well, you're inescapable, but also because it is lovely to watch you. So how was the Loot Case experience? Your first real comedy?
That's right. Actually, Loot Case was shot about 2 years back. It took time to release. It went through a little bit of up and down while releasing. But the script came to me while I was shooting for Delhi Crime Season 1.
Right.
So at that time, I was really subconsciously or consciously or subconsciously looking for something which was lighthearted, because I felt quite emotionally spent after season 1 in particular, because it was a very emotionally immersive experience and it was beautiful for that. But I didn't know whether if I had to move on to something which required that much from me or as much from me emotionally, whether I had anything to offer or not. So in that sense, Loot Case came at a very good time where I was really seeking that lightheartedness.
Right.
I really didn't know my way around the comedy around the comic space. I didn't know whether it had to be prepared for differently from other roles or not. I've had some experience with comedy in theater, but not in film. And I find it particularly hard in the film space. Particularly hard in terms of writing, direction, everything. I think it's quite a task to pull off a joke well on camera. So I was curious to see how it would pan out for me. I really didn't know what to expect. So I thought, ki chalo, let's treat this as a project. I'll just learn my lines and turn up on set and see what other people have to offer.
Right.
Pretty much my way of going about it.
So what is the response been, Rasika? Because Bollywood, the minute they see you doing something really well, then they decide to give you more of the same quickly.
That tends to happen a lot. It hasn't happened for me in the last 2-3 years. People have actually, and particularly these casting directors who cast me in Loot, Abhishek and Anmol, who run a company called Casting Bay, they had also cast me in Mirzapur.
Okay.
So both
totally different
were roles which I would think that people would find it hard to imagine me in those parts.
Right.
But for Mirzapur, especially when I was offered the part, I was like, have they made a wrong decision? Are they sure? I was also doubtful. So yeah, there are people who think out of the box, who have given me these opportunities in the last few years. And I think also with things in the digital space, writing has evolved a lot.
Yeah.
And there are many, many different kinds of things that are being written. So I think people are imagining things differently from every perspective, not only from the casting perspective, but also from the genre, script writing, character development perspective. So I think that really helps for all departments to sort of change things up and do things differently.
Rasika, in a way, you began with web series, not the web series that we know now, but the earlier, the first wave, so to speak. How is this experience with streaming been? How is it different from when you began with Permanent Roommates and a series like that?
There's so much more right now.
Yeah,
Suddenly the space is flooded, and every week you have a new show which comes out. So I don't know how it's definitely grown a lot in terms of numbers, but what I find exciting about it is that there seems to be no formula yet, even in the last 3 or 4 years, and that I find very encouraging. Also, I think a lot of actors, me, Sumit Vyas,
yeah,
Manvi Gagru. We were all people who sort of uh, we had some successful projects early on.
yeah,
But I'm so happy to find that it's not that it's only 4 people or 5 people who continue to get work.
yeah,
With every project, there are new faces, you
yeah,
see, new opportunities are given to other actors as well. And also keeps people who have had reasonable success in this space on their toes as well. So
right,
I'm happy that it is a competitive environment where there is newness, there are new people, new genres with every new show. So it sort of keeps the space competitive and keeps everybody on their toes rather than some few people being like, "ये तो हमारी जगह है."
exactly. Almost every series launches a new star, I feel. I mean, we saw Patal Lok, then we saw, of course, Sacred Games was the mother of all, or the father of all. Mirzapur launched so many stars. So every series seems to be launching new stars and people who've been around, but suddenly the focus is on them,
That's right.
which is so lovely because some have just been around for 20 years. I mean, yesterday I was speaking to Neeraj Kabi. Took him 21 years to land his first part. What kind of commitment and perseverance does that take? It's amazing.
Neeraj is a lovely actor. I've worked with him on a film
Once
called
again,
Once
yes,
Again.
yeah,
That's right. Neeraj had I've always been very envious and curious of his process because
right,
he used to run these theater workshops. He lives in Mira Road and he had a space there where he used to use for theater workshops. And I think he chose for a while to not do work which he didn't feel interested.
right.
So I guess his journey in that sense probably was longer and really he had he did such an outstanding performance with Ship of Thesis.
Yeah, that it suddenly put him on the map.
Yeah, and I know actors like that's like a story to tell. I keep
Yeah.
telling you that your journey is really one of those that is for a book on cinema.
But even your journey has been quite interesting, Rasika, because it wasn't, I mean, you were always successful, but it's only in the last 3 years. I think you began in 2007, but it's only in the last 3 years that suddenly people are not just saying, who's that girl, but they're saying, oh, yes, that's Rasika Dugal. So, how has that journey been? That also takes a lot of patience, doesn't it?
It does, but when I started out, I didn't really think that I wanted it to be like, oh, people should know
Hmm.
who I am. So my focus was always on the work and trying to get work, which was with every piece of work something that interested me more or engaged me in a different way.
Hmm.
That was always the desire, and that itself was so engulfing that I didn't really have much mind space to think about where this particular project is taking me or whether it's uh, uh, giving me taking me in a particular way in my career or getting me to have a name.
Yeah,
Things weren't a part of my not a part of my way of thinking, but also not a part of the people I hung out with.
right.
That really affects
Yeah,
think about your work. The people I hung out with were mostly people who were talking about, listen, have you seen that role? And how
right.
does that actor do that? And I wish I could get a role to
Yeah,
try that out. So I guess it was not a part of my work culture, so to say. So those were not things that preoccupied me. So when it happened, of course, it was always like if it happens, that's a bonus and it's
yeah,
always desirable. And I'm not going to say no, but
yeah,
I'm going to make reasonable efforts to make it easier for myself to get more work and have more choice. But the end goal was never like, I want people to know who I am. You know, the end goal was always, what can I do to get more and more different.
Writing work, yeah, to sort of play more characters and different characters.
That's right.
Right.
I always, even in the whole conversation on, we used to get asked a lot that, are you worried about getting typecast? And I used to always think that, in fact, early on in my career, I was like, I want to get typecast. Because at least then if somebody thinks of a role in that space, the
Right.
first person they think of calling is me. And at least for a while, that would ensure quantity of work for me, And I always believed, and I still do, that scripts are different, directors are different. So even if a part seemingly is similar, it not
Yeah.
it isn't. They're two people who belong to very different worlds, and it will be a different experience for you as an actor. So
Right.
typecasting is something that I never was really worried about or concerned about either. So therefore, I never thought that, for me, each role would be different anyway. My thought process was never like, should I go looking out for a role which is different?
No, for instance, your role in Made in Heaven, on the surface, it looks like something that could be from Mirzapur, and then suddenly there's a twist. And it's a very interesting twist, and it's something that stays with you, although you're just one part in a major series, and it's one of those. But so that little surprise at the end is always something exciting, I think, as an actor, that perhaps must be very interesting to work on.
I actually find parts with a twist in the end a little difficult to do. In fact,
Sure.
my apprehension with doing Made in Heaven was, it was a short role which was emotionally intense.
Yeah.
I find those the hardest because there's not enough time either in terms of shoot or within the script to build up to that. So you have to walk into it very prepared. So that I've always found difficult, and that was one of the I had a doubt about that before signing on to Made in Heaven. And if Alankrita hadn't been so reassuring, I probably would not have signed up for that part. And we were in college together, Alankrita and me.
Oh, at LSR.
At LSR, yeah.
Right.
So I've always wanted to work with her.
Yeah,
So
she's lovely.
one very exciting thing, but I sort of brought that up with her. I said, it's a very emotionally intense part, and I don't have enough time within the script to work towards it, or even in terms of shoot days, then I had just 3 days. So,
that's it?
Yeah, that's it. For
wow.
me.
Talking about the length of the role, that's not what you're looking at. You're looking at what impact it makes.
But currently, I think the length of the role has also begun to matter to me, because my interest right now, like I said, is to really see how I deal with a character when they have a graph through an entire film or series. So that's something which I'm interested in and preoccupied with at the moment as an actor. So that's something that I would like to experiment with more. Of course, if there is something which is impactful and intrigues me for any reason, maybe it's because it requires me to learn a new skill or work with somebody who I've really wanted to work with, then I'm willing to consider it. But my main sort of focus is on roles which are lengthier, so that I'm able to experiment more with how I work through a graph of a character.
How was the experience of A Suitable Boy? Because here you are working with one of the most talented directors, I think, in the world, and working with a cast of such wonderful actors, from Tabu to Ishan to the lovely young Lata, Tanya Maniktala. How was that experience? I can't even begin to tell you how wonderful it is looking. I know apparently you've not watched it. Please watch it. But A Suitable Boy is really lovely. Tell me about that experience.
There's some experiences which are completely joyous.
Yeah.
It was one of those for me, and I think Suitable Boy was the other. Working with Meera has always been on my bucket list, and I didn't think that it would actually happen, but it did. And not only did I totally enjoy working with her and watching her work, but I also really enjoyed spending time with her. She's just so lovely to talk to. And we talked about so many things in between shots and offset. We would talk about things ranging from politics to motherhood to scuba diving. I mean, she's that kind of person. She's so vibrant, and she's always, when you're with her, you have her complete attention.
Absolutely.
And that's just so lovely to watch. And it's so, you feel so respected and you feel so special. And so she's really, and she's really spunky, and she's also quite mischievous. It's great fun hanging out with her. So I had a lot of fun working with her, definitely. But like you said, the cast is lovely. And so many people from different parts of the world with different kinds of training and different work experiences. Like you said, there's Tanya, who's fairly new. She's from Delhi. There's Mahira Kakkar, who plays Mrs. Rupa Mehra. She lives in New York and has a very interesting body of work in the theater. There's this lovely actor called Shubham Saraf, who lives in London. Then there's Ishan and Tabu and Shahana, and it was just like a wonderful mix of actors, but just very nice energy. And we were all living in one hotel for 3.5 months, and I almost felt like I was back in hostel. It was like you'd finish you'd finish a shooting day and you would come back, and everybody would make groups and go for dinner, and everybody knew what the other person was doing at every point. So it almost felt like living in a hostel.
So you were there even when they shot the scenes in Calcutta. They were also based in Lucknow, or were those scenes as well?
Some of it was shot in Kanpur.
Okay.
So I wasn't there.
Yeah, that must be the leather part, the leather tannery, I guess.
That's right. That's right. That was in Kanpur.
And what about the Calcutta part, the Tolly? That looked very much like Tollygunj Club.
You mean the episode where we go for lunch?
No, that I think is the boarding house. I'm talking about the which you're not there for, when they dance the tango. And
that was also in Lucknow.
Oh, really? Wow, wonderfully done. So did you get to see the other actors in process as well?
Other actors from A Suitable Boy?
Yeah, did you get to see their scenes as well if you were not in them?
I didn't get to see their scenes, but I got to meet them here. Right. Somewhere we would cross paths, like somebody was taking a flight in, somebody was taking a flight out, some shooting days would overlap or something like that. So I got to meet almost everybody in the cast.
And what struck me about it is how relevant it is even now. Everything that A Suitable Boy talks about, which is based in 1951, are things that are happening around us, whether it's the mosque and the temple, whether it's tensions between Hindus and Muslims, even the whole aspiration of a young woman to be independent, to study. So many things there that are so contemporary even now. Even the Bengali, the criticism of the Bengali relatives, I thought it's so contemporary, you know?
Yeah, it is actually. And while shooting for it, we were shooting the making of the film, and that's when somebody asked me that, do you think the story is relevant now? And that's when it struck me, and I was like, it's more relevant now than ever. You know?
Yeah.
At least in my lifetime, or the time that I went to college in Delhi, I don't remember society being so polarized. I don't remember not being able to have a conversation with somebody who wasn't on the same side as me politically, you know. And I think in the last 3-4 years, I've really felt a loss of that, and I really felt that is scary, you know, because that's like a breakdown in conversation, and so there's nothing to learn from each other anymore because there is no dialogue. And also then there's a fear of engaging.
Yeah.
And that's only increasing because increasingly we are engaging in social media forums more and more, which doesn't lend itself very well to any kind of in-depth conversation.
Right.
Almost like you have to, in a few words, make your stance clear and also make it clear really loudly. And once you sort of get support on that, even if you feel like you have to reconsider your own thoughts, you feel like you can't back out.
Exactly.
You said it so loudly and so many people agreed with you. You feel like you have to say it even louder. and keep on believing what you might have um, lost belief in.
Yeah, exactly. You don't even get that time and space to change your beliefs and your ideas, which you can. I mean, as an individual, you will not be the same that you were even a day ago. You
Yeah,
evolve all the time.
there seems to me like you can't say I don't know.
Yeah, you have to know, and you have
Yes,
to have a point of view.
on something which is not your area of expertise,
Yeah.
and no realization that that there is value to go listening to an expert, you
Hmm.
know. And we don't seem to be encouraging that, and we don't seem to be doing that, and I really feel nervous about that at several levels.
Yeah.
I feel nervous about engaging with people these days for
Right.
that reason.
Rasika is an actor, especially a female actor. You know that the world can be quite vicious, especially social media, especially if you have a point of view that doesn't agree with the majority. How do you handle it?
It's become more and more abusive in the last few months, actually. Early on, I used to really look at it from a point of curiosity rather than anything else. I mean, I know that we live in a misogynistic society, and here is proof of that.
Yeah.
So social media comments for me was like, hey, here's proof of something that I've known for a while. Though yes, on a daily basis, especially the kind of sexual comments that I would get after Mirzapur was
Hmm.
something which was pleasant to wake up to every morning.
Yeah.
But I wasn't really taking it personally. I was sort of looking at it as a social study at that point in time. But I think it's gone a little beyond that. Not for my own personal account or people who follow me, but as I've seen it for other people. And
Yes.
that's not something that is nice, and that is something that should be called out.
Yeah. But
And
the minute you do that, the minute you show even an ounce of empathy for someone else, you come into the firing line yourself. So it can be quite tough if you're a public person.
it is, and I think you, as a public person, you have to constantly re-examine and reassess how you interact with
Yeah.
people, and to understand that every time you put up something, it is equivalent to a real life situation of standing on a stage and speaking to 3,000 people at
Right.
one particular time. So the responsibility of that act, and the responsibility of posting or commenting is equivalent to that.
Yes.
So I think that realization and that responsibility has to be there. You can't be casual about things. So these things have to be thought through. And sometimes because of the immediacy and frequency with which you feel you're expected to interact, you tend to err on the side of saying something too soon.
Hmm.
But I think if you have that awareness, and I mean, you can manage it
Hmm.
fairly well. But yeah, I mean, it keeps changing. Like there's some days that I feel that I really want to say something and I will, and there's some days that I feel like, listen, I don't know what I feel about this yet.
Right.
I will take my time to listen to everybody, and I will respond. And even in that situation, there are people on social media who say, "Hey, you said this last time.
Yeah.
Where are you now?"
Yeah. Of course. And then,
I've just realized I'm not going to give into any such pressure.
yeah.
I will take my time. I will listen to people. I will figure out what I feel is right. And I will speak only if I feel I have something to contribute.
Right.
I'm an actor. It's not, I don't always have to, I don't know everything about everything. And,
Yeah.
I need to find out. I need to make myself aware before I say anything about something which is important.
Right.
So I need to find that time to do that. And I will not fall for the pressure of somebody saying, ki, tell us what you think.
Yeah.
Why?
But that's not the only pressure on a young actor, Rasika. There's also the pressure of looking a certain way on the red carpet, of wearing certain brands, of, especially when you go out and you're at Cannes, or, you go to these wonderful film festivals, you have to look a certain way and represent India in a way. How are those experiences? How is it being dressed by stylists and carrying particular brands? Do you enjoy that? Do you see it as part of the whole game of being an actor, or how do you see
I see it as a part of my work which I don't particularly enjoy.
that?
Always nervous and I'm always confused because it's not my department. I have no real opinion on it. So I totally rely on the people I work with. What
Right.
they want me to do at a particular time, I do that. Some of it, yes, I do enjoy. I mean, I have to say that when you feel you're looking beautiful or
Yeah.
you have nice clothes to wear, it is nice.
Even if you have to return them the next day, do you have to return them?
It's even nicer when you have to return them. You don't have to think about creating another cupboard in your house in a flat in Bombay to put that dress.
Absolutely. That'll take another room, and who has space for that?
That is very freeing to be, and the idea that somebody else is benefiting from you wearing their clothes.
Right. Right.
So I mean, it's like a win-win situation. You can benefit from it, why not? And you don't have to buy it, and it's fine. So
Right.
it's a part of my work I don't particularly enjoy. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I'm always nervous about it, but I just deal with it and move on.
So, have you been hearing some of the talk about a suitable boy in England? What do you feel? Have you got calls? Are you looking at a possible career that could take you not just doing very well in streaming services and otherwise in India, but also maybe globally?
I would love to be a part of a project globally. I would love to see how shoots work in another country,
Right.
how people interact with each other, because like filmmaking is such a beautiful process. It's a very personal exercise and a very collaborative one. So the way you engage with people is very special. And I'd like to work with different people from all around the world to see how that would pan out for me. And that would be very interesting, of course.
Is that likely to happen? Have you had calls, or it's too early to tell?
No, not like nothing really concrete. I mean, I've been doing auditions for things overseas here and there. A lot of actors do in India.
Yeah, of course. Now technology allows you to do that.
Exactly. And in the last few years, many more auditions have happened,
Right.
which has been close to converting as yet.
Right. So
Yeah.
talk. Yes, I think there's so many opportunities, and now looks. Beauty is so multiracial and multicultural. You can pass off as being someone from anywhere else in the world as well. So I
Yeah,
think that whole idea of representing a particular culture has changed.
that has changed. And there's been a lot of conversation around that in the US and in UK, and a lot of efforts, particularly in casting, to sort of defy those set norms.
I wanted to briefly ask you about Taboo, because hers is a career that seems so wonderful. And I think, wouldn't everyone like to have a career like that that just goes on and on and on?
I'm so envious of Tabu and of Irfan. I used to always say
Yeah,
that, whenever somebody asked me which are the whose career
right.
would you envy? And really, in Irfan's career path was envious, and so is Tabu.
And you worked with him as well.
I did in Kissa.
Yeah, that must have been a wonderful experience.
It was beautiful. He really made me have faith that there can be magic in the time between action and cut, because the first time I experienced it was in a shot with him. And that really made me realize that that can happen. And it gave me the confidence that that can happen. And, otherwise, as actors, you are so nervous that you would always choose an option which is safe. When you go down that path, then you miss out on the magic. It's only when that the magic happens once and it gives you the confidence that it might happen again, that you stop choosing things which are safe. Safe means you might come off with a performance which is efficient, never come off with a performance which is magical. Khan really taught me that, and I can never forget. That. That was such a beautiful thing to learn from him.
What is the difference? How does that work for an actor? You can bring in all the preparation that you want to the scene, but then at some point you have to let go? how does that magic happen?
By chance.
Yeah. But then you want to keep recreating that. It doesn't always happen.
So it's usually hard for it to happen if you're really looking out for it,
Right.
because it is one of those things which is not so tangible, and uh, it is a coming together of various energies which for those moments aligns so beautifully to create something magical. So you can try, but I think the few things that I've learned that that sort of is giving me a better chance of achieving something magical in a shot is that I think all your preparation has to be um, a little subconscious, in the sense that you can equip yourself to create a world for your character, but you cannot know that this will help you achieve this. You know, that kind of thinking, in my mind and in my experience, um, is uh, is very boring and often not workable. So you can do things. For example, when I was preparing for Delhi Crime season 1, for me, a moment of magic in that project was a time when I first go, when Neeti Singh goes to this to India Gate where people are protesting.
Yes, yes.
And this is the first time that she's in that riot gear.
Right, right.
And there are these two. There's the fire brigade on one side and a tear gas truck on the other side, and she comes out from there and she sees suddenly this mob standing there and really vocalizing their hatred for the police. And I had not imagined, when I had read this scene, that I would be stumped and hurt about it. But the day I was shooting for it, I was almost in tears when I came out, and I was like, I almost felt like, why are these people saying bad things about us? We've been working so hard.
Right. So that's amazing, no? That kind of empathy with your character.
And that's not something, if you think this, it will not happen.
Right.
What you have to do is you have to be really invested in what you're doing. So as Neeti Singh, my preparation for that scene was, I'm constantly thinking, is that girl okay in the hospital?
Yeah.
That's my thought.
Yeah.
I had never imagined that focusing on that thought would lead to this.
Right.
But I think you have to just find the correct things to focus on.
Right. In A Suitable Boy, I wonder, what did you focus on? Because there's so many points of contact that you have. You're concerned for Lata. Then of course your mother. You're sort of the way you don't want to hurt her, and yet so you're very protective of your mother as well, and of course your husband. You're very you have affection towards him. What were your points of contact there? There's that lovely scene between you and Lata, for instance, where you ask her whether she's seen something. Yeah. So what was that?
So for different projects, it's different things. But I think for Savita, I really felt that she was somebody who is comfortable in where she is.
Yeah.
And comfortable enough that she can be in every situation, be there for people around her.
Right.
So that I felt was what I had to do in any scene, I felt that, and sometimes as actors, especially when you're working with an ensemble, a lot of times you do get insecure about the role. And as Savita, I felt I had to overcome that. I had to sort of genuinely be there for people around me, like Savita, and be very comfortable not being the center of attention.
Right.
So I think that is, and there's some people who are wonderful, and you watch them in life where they're doing very ordinary things, and they constantly find the strength to be there for people around them, and so effortlessly.
Right.
Nobody would even, that if people around them were to were to take them for granted, they wouldn't even say thank you.
Yeah.
You know, so Savita is one of those people.
Right.
She wouldn't feel walked over
Right.
anybody because of that, you know. So that was sort of my thoughts while I
Yeah.
was
So
shooting.
you have to create that worldview. Do you repeat your character in Delhi Crime, or am I asking too much?
No, of course, I play Neeti Singh again.
Okay, so it'll be interesting to see her developing.
Yes, it's like, you know, I was nervous about season 2's.
Yeah.
It was like, normally you work on a part and it's between you, the director, your co-actors, and what you think of the part. But you haven't watched it and you haven't had feedback from other people about it. So here in the season 2 setup, you're walking into a situation where you've heard tons of things
Yeah.
about the character. You've heard everybody's opinion about it. You've also watched yourself as opposed to being that person. You watched it from the outside. And now you're going to visit this person again. So how does that happen?
Yeah.
So I was quite nervous about that. But I said, chalo, chodo, jo hoga, so hoga, dekha jayega. But it was quite fun because it was almost like, you know, it was meeting an old friend.
Right.
So you know how they're basically hardwired and those things don't change.
Right.
But they've had different experiences in life. So they've transformed a little bit and you're sort of trying to reacquaint yourself with somebody who you know basically, but you've missed out on certain experiences in their lives. So you have to sort of get to know them a little again. You know, so that's how season 2 panned out. And Delhi Crime season 2, I shadowed somebody in season 1.
Right.
Who was a probationer officer in the Delhi police. And that's what Neeti Singh's rank was.
Yeah.
So for season 2, I thought I'll call her up and just see where she is and what she's doing. So I called her up, and funnily enough, she was in the same position as Neeti Singh was promoted to.
Oh. Fascinating.
So it's great. So, and she was very willing for me to come and spend time with her. She was posted in Chandigarh.
Okay.
So I made a trip to Chandigarh and I spent 4 days with her. Where she was very generous. She allowed me to just be a fly on the wall and
Right.
observe her work as ACP.
Right.
And I did that, and that was just. I felt like I had just sitting in a police station in an ACP's office for 4 days. I felt I had done character work for a lifetime.
Yeah, so many experiences, you know.
I can't tell you how people, and because whenever, you know, it's great. Actually, a police, a thana or a police officer's office or a hospital is actually very good for character study because people usually come there with a very urgent need.
Yeah.
You know, so they are sort of reacting to things like people would do in a film, because every scene in a film or a series is there because there's some urgency to that.
Right.
Not only in terms of time, but there are things at stake, basically.
Yeah.
So that's how people come into these situations. And it's just, some of it is just hilarious how they react, and some of it is, of course, heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And it's how police officers deal with this every single day. And, you know, I watched this girl make decisions, and I watched her when she was starting out, and the way she had transformed was just such a treat for me to watch. And she was making very important decisions every half an hour. And it was scary for me to watch. I was like, God, the decision she's making right now is going to affect somebody's life significantly.
Right. So was it the same with Mirzapur, where your character is, of course, not so public and not so vocal, but she's seething underneath, you know, she's like, so how is it to get back to her? I hope she has an explosion in this season. I'm waiting for it.
Yeah, the script had already sort of given her a very different situation to be.
Yeah.
So there was a lot to work with there already. And with her particularly, I felt that you see a very different side of her. So I was constantly concerned that while seeing this different side, are you still able to see the Beena-ness?
Yeah.
The character's name is Beena Tripathi.
Yeah.
And I was concerned that I hope that's not missing.
Right.
Because that's something that I don't want the audience to miss. And I don't want to miss while watching that because I enjoyed being that,
Mm.
So I don't know how it's turned out. Let's see.
Yeah, we'll find out soon enough. I think there's so many public petitions to have Mirzapur season 2 quickly. What else are you excited about? What else are you doing? As if this was not enough, but I know you're doing more. What else excites you, Rasika?
Right now, I really felt that in the last 2 years, I didn't get time to do anything which was not work related.
Right.
Even though, like we already discussed, the work itself gives you an opportunity to explore so many different things. And while that's beautiful, I just felt that I wanted to just do things which are not connected to anything.
Hmm.
Like I was doing before Manto. Actually, I was learning Urdu and reading progressive writers even before I was offered the role. And I remember my mother asked me once, why are you going for these Urdu classes and going on learning Urdu? Kya fayda hoga, I was like, nahi, mujhe karna hai, mujhe maza aata hai.
Right.
So I really felt that I didn't have a chance to do that. So I think during the lockdown, I've been doing some of that. So let's see where it finds its way into the work. I've been taking music classes online, something which I've always wanted to do. I sing terribly, but I've always wanted to sing.
Hmm.
So that's something that I'm doing. I've been also very fascinated by, I think in the lockdown, uh, taken to podcasts, which is something
Right.
that I hadn't explored at all earlier.
Right.
And I've been listening to a lot of academics and economists and historians and political scientists talk about like different things. And one thing leads to another.
Exactly.
So yeah, whatever they recommend, I start reading that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like your own personal reading list, and you
Yeah,
want to
so
follow.
those are some of the things I've been doing in the lockdown, and totally enjoying it. It's really giving me especially the economic lens is something which, I mean, I don't know so much about it
Right.
yet. Whatever I know is really a very interesting lens to look at things with.
You see yourself writing or directing? Because it looked to me as if Banana Bread was a collaborative effort. Also, because it was at the peak of lockdown, and I don't know how you shot it, but you shot it really well. Just the two of you, Mukul and you. But you had a director, but it was long distance, I think. So,
That's right.
you see yourself doing more of that, writing or directing?
Um, I don't know. I didn't really want to write when we did Banana Bread. It was because Mukul wanted to write.
Right.
I wanted to be a part of ideating something from the beginning because as actors you really don't have much agency actually.
Yeah.
Because when you enter a project, it's almost it's written for sure, so it's half done already, and it's also somebody else's vision that you're following. You really don't have, even though you'd like to believe it, you don't have as much agency as it seems to be.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be a part of something which I'm involved with at the ideating stage. But I didn't think that I wanted to actively be a part of of the writing process. But Mukul wanted to be. So I thought the lockdown is a good time for both of us to collaborate on this. So we ended up doing it. I enjoyed it, but it's very time taking, and it's it's really something which requires a lot of patience. Both of us are working on something else right now because one of our friends watched Banana Bread and liked the humor of it, and so he suggested that we should develop something with him.
Yeah.
Which so we are both writing on it, but I'm constantly going off to do my promotions, and Mukul's like, "Hey, I wrote one page. Where are you?"
Right.
So it's time taking, and I think he's more suited for the job. I don't know if I'll be doing it again seriously. Might be, might not be, but directing, I'm not sure. It's really something which is, I feel being director is like being God.
Hmm.
You need to have your eyes and ears everywhere, and you need to have a sense of everything.
Yeah.
Understand music, you need to understand rhythm, you need to understand pacing, you need to be a good manager. You need to manage all these energies
Right.
and to be able to communicate with people very often in a way which is beyond words. So I don't know how people do it. It's quite a difficult task, and I am not sure if I'm up for it.
So Rasika, I'd like to end by asking you about, what's happening in the industry around you. There's been the death of Sushant Singh Rajput, which has caused so much pain to so many people. And as a young actor, of course, the whole idea that, promising career has been cut short is heartbreaking. But yet there's so much toxicity around that whole, that ongoing murder mystery that it's become. So when you look around and you see all that, what strikes you as a young actor yourself? How do you see all that?
There's so much constantly happening every day that I don't really know what I feel about everything right now. But yes, like you said, it is heartbreaking for everybody involved in this. And yeah, I think it's still so much in the news that it's difficult for me to really understand what I feel about it or really articulate what I feel about it today.
Yeah, I think that would be it. I wish you a lot more success, many more loot cases, and a suitable boy. And please go out and watch it as quickly as you can. We've had the pleasure of seeing you in it, and much, much more success to you. Thank you
Thank,
so much, Rasika.
thank
Thank
you.
you.